Hi, and welcome once again to What's the Damage, companion show to the incredibly well-known and popular real play D&D show Roll for Damage, 100% non-GMO. We had a fun Friday, just like we always do. The Shields of Twilight ventured into the mountains on a very important hunting trip to regain their honor and repay their blood debt. They fought some giants, killed a fancy buffalo, play in the dirt. Peregrine got to be solidly in her element for once. Everybody got their boots a bit muddy. Then later on, Oriana connected with her family. That was fun. We've got guests tonight. We've got questions for those guests. That's all coming up right now. As always, stick around after the stream for links and resources. I'm your host, Truth Venson, and this is What's the Damage? Hey, welcome back. Joining me today is Laura, as you can see.
Howdy,
The
y'all.
beautiful Laura who plays Peregrine. Chad's filling
Biscuits
in
and
for,
such.
yeah, biscuits and such. Y'all.
I did that one already. Keep
Did
up.
you?
Yeah, you missed it.
Okay, sorry.
I said howdy and also y'all.
I was thinking about how long it's been since not Oriana, since Laura's been on the show. Oriana's on here like every other week. Yeah, Laura's going to be here, but she's running a teeny bit late, so Chad is filling in,
Yeah, y'all got to deal with
and
me. Ha.
just like channeling his wife until she can be here. And then we got Jake, who does play Oriana, is here like every other week. Hi guys. So you guys went hunting, communed with nature and a
And that
slew
was
of
it.
wild beasts. Yeah,
Nope.
so what's the damage from all that?
Oh gosh.
You ended biggest, so I'm not even here technically.
Just
Now it's your turn for the elephant in the
answer
room.
as Laura. Answer as Laura, Chad.
Um yeah, I mean that was an interesting experience for Oriana. We've been traveling, but she's never really considered it like roughing it in any
Mhm.
way. I mean, sleeping in like the early days of the party before we had the study, they would sleep in tents and stuff like that, and it was just kind of like, oh well, this is a necessary part of this lifestyle, and I'm growing more and more accustomed to it. But actually having to rough it and go out and hunt things, seeing a close friend of hers butcher a living animal. Yeah, definitely a new experience for Oriana. Not
Yeah,
something
it's
she'd
not
ever
exactly
do.
glamping.
Yeah. She's a little used to that glamping.
Mhm. I
Oh,
do
I think we're
believe
getting a
we've
Lori.
got our
There's
other
Laura.
guest. There she is, getting pushed in by her very helpful husband. She appears to be miking herself up. I'm just going to narrate what she's doing. Let's see. She appears to be fumbling for her headphones. Oh, what's the next move now, Laura? Doing golf commentary. There she goes.
Uh,
First headphone in. No sound as of yet. We're doing golf commentary. Second headphone in. She brings it home. Hello, Laura.
Hi, y'all.
Welcome back. It's been so long.
Go away, Chad. I apologize for what was probably Chad's horrendous accent.
I didn't do well.
We only got the barest glimpse of his attempt at your accent, unfortunately. Biscuits.
and
Y'all.
such.
Cool beans. Okay, so you only missed the what's the damage question. Any damage in particular you want to go over before we move on?
I don't think so. I mean, Perry currently does not have as much damage, although there is some. Given she
damage
feels
floating
incredibly guilty about what happened
Mhm.
in the bazaar.
Yeah, we're gonna have some fun talking about that. Because you haven't been on for a while. Okay, so
Yeah. Screw grad school, y'all.
actually, why don't we dive right into that? I don't think we got Perry's perspective really after the massacre in the bazaar.
Yeah.
We all know she felt quite bad about that.
Yeah. She did not at all go into that with the idea that they were going to kill a bunch of people. In fact, she was hoping that taking the big guy would intimidate them into giving them a way to get their stuff back. And she had no intention of killing anybody. And the moment she realized just the bare minimum of her thorn whip was that bad, she immediately went into crowd control and can I stop this mode.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was interesting to see like her shock as I think she whipped a guy in half, if I'm remembering that correctly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, no,
Doesn't
I missed.
happen every
It's
day.
fine. I missed. It's fine.
Hey.
Perry will pull back now. Oh, wait. No, she didn't
Oh,
miss.
wait,
And that's
no.
brutal.
Oops.
Oh, this is some Mortal Kombat shit.
Yeah. So what did Perry think about what your punishment ended up being from the Desert Rose? Because it ended up being really a chance to redeem yourself more than any kind of real punitive consequence.
Well, Perry feels incredibly grateful to be given the opportunity to make things right. As far as she's concerned, it might be a more lenient, punishment than they really deserve, given what happened. So she's really, really grateful for the chance, which is why when he offered it, she immediately said, "No, I'll do penance."
Yes. Yeah. Awesome. So she's taking like this whole going to the mountains, getting food very seriously.
Very seriously.
Very seriously. Yeah, I think that came through during the episode too. Okay, so we've caught up with you. We're going to go into last episode now and some of the last episode and the episode before as well. Okay, so Oriana has been having some interesting conversations with a variety of interesting characters. She's gotten varying degrees of told off several times. I want to talk about the absolutely fascinating conversation she had with Perry first, starting with Perry's perspective, actually. So, Laura, Peregrine was obviously pretty upset due to the recent murders, but this seemed kind of from the audience perspective like something that had been building for a bit. Is that accurate?
Yeah, a little bit. A lot of times Perry feels like nobody actually takes her seriously. It's like, well, Perry's good for turning into animals and pulling carts and occasional crowd control, but other than that, she's just a country bumpkin. It doesn't matter. So like when it all happened and she literally saw what happened to Quinn, she was trying to take care of him, but at the same time, all of a sudden, she was being spoken for again without her consent. And she's starting to feel like, hey, look, I can talk for myself. You know, I've got just as much of a say as anybody else. And she kind of has had this sort of tension with Melody building as far as she sees Melody as a dear, dear friend, but she also feels like Melody sees her as less. that she is smarter than her and better than her. And sure, Perry might have a nugget of wisdom every now and then, but honestly, whatever. And she
It's like
often
quaint country bumpkin wisdom.
Yeah, it's you say cute shit that might be wise, but it's ultimately unimportant. And for her, it feels like what happens is when Melody doesn't get her way, Melody closes off and doesn't like actually try to explain herself, and then is mad because nobody listened. And like she was especially upset because Perry was looking and grasping for a reason not to do this, but she didn't see what else they could do. And Melody initially was like, no, we shouldn't do this, but it came off more to her as a judgment of we shouldn't rush into this because Quinn had already almost killed a kid, and this is just another bad Quinn idea, which isn't really the real reason we shouldn't be doing it. So a lot of times she feels like when she's having a conversation with Melody, it's more Melody talks in circles and circles and circles and never actually gets around to saying anything to her or to anybody, and then gets mad because nobody understands her.
Interesting. So like as we've seen Peregrine kind of like grow and change while she's like with this adventure party in this group, it seems like she's kind of emerged as a voice of reason of sorts, especially within the last, say, 5 episodes. Was this kind of like how you envisioned this character going?
No, actually. I kind of envisioned her, she's, really kind of anxious and confused, and she doesn't know what she's doing because she's always followed the leadership of the tribe. Mm-hmm. And the minute she said, no, you're wrong, I've got to go, she kind of lost some structure in her life. But I've kind of developed this sense that she is constantly in this sense of anxiety and about to fall to pieces, but she knows that there's no time for that. And if she's going to accomplish what needs to be accomplished, she must be stronger, which is why she meditates. Because if she didn't, she would fly to pieces at the drop of a hat.
Yeah, it's true of all of us. Yeah, it is actually, it's very interesting to watch her because I definitely think that anxiety comes through, but also you get to watch her in real time, like diving deep into that well of strength because she's a very principled character, I think. Mm-hmm. So I think whenever she has like this kind of everything's happening all at once so much, she has sort of like a moral background that she can look to. Mm-hmm. And that's something a party needs sometimes,
Yeah, she believes that sometimes rules are meant to be broken, mm-hmm. but also you have to do the right thing. And just because you broke the rules because they need to be broken doesn't mean you weren't wrong. And if you're wrong, own it. Make wisdom up for it life. And get better.
Wisdom. Quaint country bumpkin wisdom. Cool beans. Okay, let's talk about Oriana's perspective on the various things, not starting with Peregrine. We're going to go a little bit before that. So you got some slightly unfriendly advice from the leader of the Desert Rose. Then Peregrine, then your grandpa.
We can skip the last one.
Maybe. So did this conversation with like the head honcho of the Desert Rose go the way the way Oriana planned it to? Like, what did she want to happen there?
I mean, kind of. The ultimate goal of Oriana's, for lack of a better term, bullshitting spree, was that she legitimately thought, we are all going to just be murdered by the law of this land, and we better have at least some kind of defense in place. So she looked to like, okay, well, what evidence can we prove that this was our stuff? And knowing how a bag of holding works, hey, I have to know what's in there in order to pull it out. Let me do that so that they can see, oh yeah, this was their stuff. And then just kind of like not really. I mean, degrees of lies, but in her eyes, not really lying, just telling the part of the story that paints them in a more favorable light when it comes to murdering 16 people.
15.
Which was that they 15, 16. Who's counting? Who's counting?
Desert Rose
Their
was.
families are counting.
But yeah, I mean, she was just trying to show a perspective in which, hey, this was not what we came in to do. We realized we fucked up. We want to atone for this. You know, we're willing to do whatever it takes. And again, it was just a spree of bullshit to try and make sure her friends were not killed for what she honestly perceives as mostly her mistake, as she was a voice in favor of, well, let's just do this. If we're going to do this, let's just do it.
It was all of your mistake.
No, everybody had a role.
100%
Everybody could have
all
said,
our mistakes.
Yeah. Anybody could have said no, but Oriana started arguing for it, and that's why she views it as like part of her, mostly her fault, because she is the persuasive one in the group. She is the one who is the voice in some way, usually. So she feels a little responsible. The face. She feels very responsible for it. But she was pleased to learn that he's actually not a bad guy and is interested in, maybe creating a friendship there or something. We'll see.
Something definitely. I want to talk about actually the conversation that Oriana had with, I forget his name, the leader of the Desert Rose. He was cool. I should remember his name. Post the sentencing meeting, essentially, because she went back and talked to him again. That was kind of the conversation that I want to know, was that what she wanted? Because he essentially just kind of made fun of her a little.
And she took her licks. Yeah. That was not necessarily a part of any plan Oriana had. Mm-hmm. She just kind of that first initial meeting was a very eye-opening situation for her, in which she began to realize some of her faults, and she wanted to personally apologize to him, because she realized, especially after talking to Perry, that what she did in any situation is really not the right choice. It's, trying to bullshit your way out of a situation that you caused is not how you're supposed to handle that kind of thing. And she's realized a lot about herself, namely that she tends to just kind of trust someone implicitly if she doesn't see a reason not to. It's happened in her past a lot. It's happened with her mentor. It's happened with members of the party. It's happened, with assumptions that have been made from people she trusts. So she takes it as gospel. So she wanted to apologize for making an ass out of herself in front of a man that she judged based on someone else's opinion, who had never even met the guy.
Cool beans. Now let's talk about Oriana's perspective on the conversation with Perry, because that saw Oriana really kind of expressing what she saw as her flaws, and then I think Perry being like, no, these other flaws. Let me tell you about these other flaws that I think you should work on.
Yeah. That was so like I just said, in that first meeting with the Desert Rose, she had started to realize she trusts what people say at face value without really ever going into it. So when it came to that, she immediately started doing what Oriana always does, overthinking everything. Mm-hmm. And just like, okay, well, how can I start breaking this bad habit? Ask more questions. Hey, while we're out there...
Can we do our own shit?
Yeah. So, again, and that's why Oriana felt she needed to apologize to the guy, because after talking to Perry, she realized, she needs to work on her flaws, but she can't create new flaws in the process of trying to fix her flaws. You're one step forward, 2 steps backward. You can't lose something to try and make a little progress on a problem.
Personal growth. It's messy.
Very, very.
Neato. Okay. And that's just what happened the episode before last. So last Friday, you guys went off into the woods to hunt something Perry is familiar with. Was it a relief for Peregrine to be doing something that's like goddamn normal for once? Like sustenance hunting?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Like the idea, we're just gonna go do what I did like every month.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is fine. I can handle this. There's no weird interpersonal drama. There's just go get meat and go get pelts. Don't trash it. Bring it home. Simple. And for her, that is kind of like a breath of fresh air to just be able to be, I am in my element.
I can do this.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. So did Peregrine like hunt a lot back home? What was her niche exactly in her village?
She didn't really have one. She was kind of just scattered all over the place because, as she's mentioned previously, and I'm sure is going to keep coming up, she struggled a lot with her dramatic abilities for a long time. And so knowing where she fit was very difficult. So she kind of did a little bit of everything. She spent some time with the healers. She spent some time with the tribal guard. She spent some time hunting, and she spent a great deal of time like climbing trees and going with the hunting party. So it was sort of like, I went and did this like monthly hunt because I could do that, and it didn't rely too much on my abilities.
Right. Non-magical hunting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what was it like for her to be in a hunting party with non-hunters? Because I assume she's used to hunting with people who know what they're doing.
Incredibly frustrating. Like the entire conversation of, we'll just attack this one and also levitate this one. And Perry's like, or we could just take down this one, and if we do it quietly enough, then we can move on to the next one. Well, no. Like common sense. I know how animals think. I become them, for heaven's sake. For her, that was like incredibly frustrating. And then for no one to listen when she's like, y'all, we can't keep trying to hunt the same stampeded herd. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. They're gone. Please listen to me for like 5 seconds. I know what I'm doing.
Oh, poor little druid.
So she was both in her element and also really infuriated with everybody.
So in her element more.
Thank you, Chad, for your commentary from the peanut gallery.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay,
that was actually a moment where I had trouble separating player from character.
What was the moment?
Jake,
sorry, I just accidentally muted myself, apparently. One of my favorite quotes from like historical quotes is an old, I believe it's a Native American saying, if you chase 2 rabbits, you will lose them both. And it's a motto I try and usually fail to live by, considering my ADHD brain loves to multitask. And it was one of those things where I was like, I want Oriana to make this quote because it's one of my favorite quotes, but I'm like, but Oriana would have no practical experience with that.
Oriana would not know shit about this.
Nice. Yeah, it's very similar to that burn the hand two in the bush thing.
Yeah.
Cool beans. Okay, now that we talked hunting and philosophy, let's talk about Asmodeus.
Boy.
So, Oriana, did she A, know who she was talking to, and B, know that she's apparently a direct descendant of the King of the Nine Hells? I mean, like, I'm sure the dude's got a bunch of grandkids, but that's still at least a medium deal.
I mean, she looks an awful lot like her mother. She's aware that tieflings are a race in the world. I don't think Oriana's ever really had a thought of, hey, where do tieflings come from? Where do baby tieflings come from? No, she did not. She did not. Yeah, I don't honestly think she would know who Asmodeus is.
She didn't ask either.
She'd probably be aware of him as like a concept
Mhm.
of like, and as much as like anybody would be,
Yeah.
like anybody would be aware of the devil in the real world or the concept of the devil in the real world. So more or less, she probably knows that there is a Lord of the Nine Hells, but never really bothered putting a face to the name or anything like that. But once he kind of started talking, she kind of pieced together, oh no. This guy is watching
Trouble. Yeah. I think this makes her like a hell princess of some kind. Maybe. Well, I'm
Maybe
sure we'll get into it. We will get into lineage and all that in game, I'm sure. Yeah, so what about that conversation you guys had? He made fun of you a bit, but also offered you help.
This is another player and character gotta stay separate because I've talked with Serenity about the lore of her world so much. So there are things I know that Oriana definitely doesn't. And I have to try and remember to keep those separate. But at the same time, she's not interested in taking his help. It's definitely an option on the table. He's not really, as far as she can tell, lied to her, in some way. He's been truthful. He wasn't, he was a little...
Yeah.
Well, exactly. How would you know?
How
but
would you
again,
know?
this
there
is
were
like,
no insight checks in that conversation at all,
No,
which
but-
shocked me.
Yeah.
No, but he said things that Oriana knows to be true. That she is...
That she thinks are true. Isn't this the whole
Yeah.
conversation we've been
Things she
having?
knows about herself. Again, it's very Oriana's biggest flaw of she will blindly trust someone if she doesn't think they're lying to her.
Something that Asmodeus directly told you not to do.
Exactly.
And then you did.
And well, that's the
In
thing.
time.
Like, that she doesn't know how to process that yet because she knows he is being not necessarily, I don't want to say deceptive. She knows he's being selective of what he's talking about, but he is saying things that she at least believes about herself to be true. And that's kind of the point, I think, of what he's trying to get her to realize is that, hey, these things are true about you. That doesn't mean it's a bad thing. Maybe it just means you need somebody to tell you what to do, and I can be that person for you, which she honestly would love. She would love somebody who can tell her what to do and how to do it. She has asked and been praying to Ayun for several days now of like, I don't know what I'm doing. I've messed up. I need guidance. Help me. And I think that's part of the problem because Ayun very specifically mentioned to Oriana that she needs to find her own way, her own truth. And she keeps asking for other people's truths. And that's...
I mean,
yeah.
your grandpa can provide some truths for you.
Maybe.
And that's
Grandpa
the other
Azzy.
side of the coin. Yeah, that's the other side of the coin. Although I guess if he's technically her nephew, then she could trace her lineage. Yeah, he's called Ayun his aunt. In that conversation,
Yes.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
He did. Because shout out to the DM for the incredible deities we're getting.
Yeah.
They're
love
magnificent.
Reference.
I love the details. Yeah, Oriana asked, like, why was he pretending to be Ioun, and he said something like, "Oh, don't tell my aunt about that. She'd get really mad or something."
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting to her, and she is very much going to be pondering this and overthinking it and making all the mistakes most likely. Because she doesn't know yet. She doesn't know. There's this path forward where she gets essentially what she wants, which is somebody to guide her. Or she tries to do what she knows is the right choice because obviously she's recognized this flaw in herself, and someone who is conventionally thought of as bad, quote unquote, is telling her, no, embrace that flaw.
No, he wasn't. He was like, you gotta play smarter, girl. I can help.
Well, I mean, there was that too. He was the casual shade of I'm the D&D devil, but wow, what you did. Wow.
Okay. So I'm curious, Jake, are you tempted?
Oh God.
Has Asmodeus seduced you?
Honestly, as a player and having talked to Serenity about some things, yes, I am very tempted to have Oriana just go full into Camp Asmodeus and just see how it plays out. But I know I need to play it like Oriana.
It'd be real interesting.
It would be. It really would be. And that's kind of why I secretly want to abandon it. But at the same time, Oriana's concept of Ioun is this... I don't even want to like describe it because to her, she's just this entity that embodies what she wants to be. And that's a core part of Oriana. So I don't know if Oriana could bear to part with that idea of like, I want to be like this person. One of her characteristics or traits, I forget which, that I specifically wrote was she wants to make a story worthy of the library of Ioun. She wants to make a story that Ioun would be proud of. And not like a once upon a time story, like her own story. She wants to be worthy of Ioun.
Yeah.
So it's going to take a lot of time for me as character and me as Oriana to figure out what would Oriana do.
Well, you've got however long until the next crisis.
Knowing us, not this week since we're off, but next week.
Yeah, not this week because we're off. And then no, what's the damage next week either. So we are now going to move on to our topic for the day, which is burnout. Yay! Yay. Okay, so let's talk about it. So D&D is one of those hobbies that requires a bit of commitment, you might say. You have to learn a bunch of rules. You have to do like research and read books and do creative writing, and campaigns can last for literal years. It's a huge emotional investment and also a huge time investment, and all that can take its toll. So first question, have either of you like felt the burnout with D&D?
Yes, 100%, absolutely.
Tell me about it.
With this group, actually, which wasn't necessarily, well, not this group specifically, but when I say this group, I'm talking about the larger overarching group. I was running 2 campaigns at once for Serenity, Laura, Chad, and a few other people. One on Wednesday, one on Fridays before we started doing this. And the second one was Curse of Strahd, which has now sort of been remolded into our Monday game. But I thought it would be, easy enough since it was a module. I just need to read the module a little bit and do all that. But between the 2 campaigns, work, and all the other stuff I had going on in my life, it was just too much. And I found myself devoting less and less time to that Curse of Strahd game and it started to become apparent in the gameplay, and I was very disappointed in myself with that. So I actually had to formally tender my resignation in a way, and just kind of ask the group, like, hey guys, I don't think I can do this anymore.
I mean, let's see, like right now I play 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, with the same group of people. And then I've sort of got a pickup game all of a sudden with Chad running a game for like three people at home. And so it's a lot. And there are times when I'm like, I'm so tired, I don't know that I can get into the session. But then I sit down at the table and I get my dice out and I'm like, okay, wait a minute, I can do this. And it feels better to play than it would have been to lay down and not do. But I think that part of that is the quality of the games I'm in and the people I'm playing with, because I did at one point in the bad game that we reference quite a bit, start to feel like dreading it every time. Like oh God, Friday's coming and I'm going to have to play this game. I'm going to have to get into this character and I'm not enjoying it anymore. And I'm so tired. I'd rather take a nap than play my warlock. And that's the point at which I was like, maybe stop.
Mm.
But now, I mean, I'm in 3 really good games and then a pickup game that's also really great. And the people are great. So it's more fun for me to sit down, and even if we have a session that is nothing but nonsense or nothing but absolute angst, because welcome to Strahd, and even if it's a night, even if it's a night when my character just gets the shit kicked out of her, both emotionally and physically, I enjoy it so much that it's easy for me. And because I'm just a player, it's easy for me to just like get in the game and then be done for the evening and not feel exhausted.
Mm-hmm.
But if I were DMing, it'd probably be another story.
Yeah. See, you guys amaze me. And especially like Serenity plays like 4 games a week still, I think. Or did one of them end? I don't know.
She's only got 3 now.
Yeah.
Only got 3 now. See, I've got 2 games a week. One of them's not even D&D, and then this, and that is like right on the verge of being too much for me. I'm like, only so much creative juice in this person. Cool beans. So what would you guys say is like are the main contributors to burnout?
As a player, not
Whatever.
enough interest in the character you're playing, usually, I would say.
Yeah.
The only time I've ever really experienced any kind of burnout with a character was when I didn't understand the character I was playing, which sounds like this big meta, like, oh my god, I'm getting too deep in the rabbit hole or something kind of thing. But really, I made a character based off of a gimmicky concept of this anime character, but this. And then I just never gave any more thought to the character, who they were. And when I started playing it, I was just kind of like, But then once I started realizing the character through interactions with the other players, it got better.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a big problem. I think there's a lot of emotional investment. Like, I find myself more emotionally tired than anything. Like, if you have like 3 sessions of just deep, dark, in the shit RP and angst, and you're really down and dirty in like some serious conflict, you come off feeling like you've just run a marathon, because you've devoted so much of your emotional energy to playing this character, and you've had to decide, okay, well, now I'm just going to embody this. And that's where I tend to get really, close to burnout, is just like the emotional dedication to it.
Interesting. Personally, I think just having too much stuff, because like we're all adults with jobs and stuff. Jake has a week off because he's a teacher and he sucks. But like, yeah, just having too much stuff. Like, I know for a fact, like, if I tried to do another game right now, I would have zero energy for any of the games, especially because my job has got a whole lot more complicated. I work in COVID. But yeah, and I think also being super angsty, like Laura was saying, like, if there's not enough lighthearted stuff in a session, then I kind of zone out a little bit. I'm like, okay, they're not the goofs. I'm here for goofs and some angst, but also goofs. It's probably a player style thing as well. Like, because I think both you and Jake were talking about, like, if you aren't feeling connected or are feeling too connected for whatever reason, then that can contribute to kind of a drag on you as a player. So probably if you're not feeling fulfilled in any way, because the game is not giving you what you want, or is just too much, or whatever, that will probably contribute to. Yeah, it's getting very theoretical.
Well, I also definitely agree with the too much stuff. I mean, right
Yeah.
now I work full time. I go to school full time to get my graduate degree. We have kids, and I'm playing 3 times a week, and I'm dealing with pandemic anxiety. So it's a lot all the time.
It's a lot all the time.
So sometimes it's just like overwhelming. And because also I'm an introvert, there's only so much in the social battery that I have to give. And I always say, like, I only have so much to give to being with people, and certain people aren't people in that sense. Like, I can spend a ton of time with Chad and not feel any kind of drain because he's not that people.
I'm not people.
Shut
It
up,
doesn't
Chad.
count.
And to some extent, the D&D group doesn't count as people I have to deal with because we've been playing together for almost a year now or more. And
It's
like
a year and a half, actually.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
I mean,
It was July when we all first started playing together, the core group, I should
yeah,
say.
the core, yeah.
Huh.
So like we've become like really, really good friends on top of like a D&D game. So like I can spend more time with y'all than I could in the beginning because I'd be like, okay, no, I'm done.
With these strangers.
Too many people. I have to go and recharge. And now I'm going to have to sit for 3 hours and just be alone.
Okay.
So that's really hard
Glad
too
not
sometimes.
to be a person in your eyes. Honored not to be a person. Oh, cool beans. So, like, as players, what can you do to sort of like monitor yourself and make sure you're not getting run down?
In terms of if it's just too much stuff, I think you need to start prioritizing what it is that makes you happy in life. Because as much as we all love D&D here and would love everybody to love D&D, if a character or a game is not bringing enough positivity into your life, then it's fine to let it go. Just like, cutting a toxic person out of your life. If something is not making your life better, you don't need to hold on to it out of some sense of duty or anything like that.
Marie Kondo that shit.
Yeah.
Does it really bring you joy?
Yeah.
Yeah. And if it is, and you're still struggling to like, well, what do I do? Then find some, in my personal opinion, then find some way to make it feel more. Maybe if you're in a group where you don't really all talk that much outside of game, maybe try and make it a closer knit friend group. So that you enjoy just talking to these people more. And that would in turn make the game a little bit better, because then it becomes less of like we're all just people playing D&D together, and no, we are friends playing D&D together.
Oh, I definitely agree. I 100% agree with the does this spark joy theory. Because honestly, if you've got 600 things to do and D&D is not making you happy for some reason, if it's a game or a bad group, walk away. You're not obligated to stay in a bad game. You're not obligated to play with people you can't stand. Let it go and walk away. I've left home games with people who are still dear friends who have been in my wedding We just can't play D&D together. And that's okay.
Not everyone's compatible.
Exactly. And like I'm a schedule person. Like I have, I like my planner. I like to know when stuff is. And like actually being organized about like where my time is going really helps me to not feel overwhelmed by everything. So nothing is burning me out because I'm like, oh shit, I have a D&D game tonight and I haven't done, I've got all this other stuff I haven't done too. So I can't have my free time, which leads to more burnout because then I feel guilty because I'm either going to play D&D and leave homework sitting there for 6 hours and then like struggle to finish it in the last hour before it's due. Or I could, actually schedule my time, get my homework and stuff done like a responsible person. Imagine that. And then still have time to do the thing that makes me happiest.
Mm-hmm. Cool. I would also say that if you are having trouble enjoying a game that you honestly don't know what the issue is, like it's with your friends, it's a character you like, that it's a DM style you enjoy, look at other things in your life, because if you're having trouble enjoying something that you should by all rights be enjoying, like are you getting enough sleep? Are you eating enough?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have anxiety about other things in life? Is it COVID? Are you having a depressive episode? It could be a million things.
Mm-hmm.
So just like keep an eye on your own mental health in every way possible and meditate.
100%. 100%. Because a lot of times I realize like I'm not enjoying D&D. It's my favorite thing. Why? And it turns out, oh no, I'm just anxious because the world seems to be on fire. Maybe I should do something about that anxiety level.
Okay.
And when I do, then the game becomes fun again.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not sitting there in the back of my mind screaming at me and distracting me from my fun.
Keep an eye on yourselves, y'all. Okay, cool. So we've talked a lot about players, but what makes a DM burn out? And is there anything players can do to like support a DM who doesn't seem like they're having fun anymore?
The most common reason for burnout I hear from DMs is just too much on your plate. So the obvious, follow-up would be what we all just discussed, which is, are you enjoying this game? Is it, a player? Is it the stress of everything applies there? But in addition, it also could just be that maybe you don't like the world you created anymore. And I'm going to get a very rude comment from Laura, I think, coming up here. But I'm one of those guys who comes up with a million different campaign ideas, and it's like a kid in the candy store. I can't decide what I want anymore.
We've discussed this and what you should do about this problem, haven't we? I'm buying you a journal for Christmas.
This is a running joke in the Discord. Join the Discord.
Join the Discord.
Discord.
We harass Jake about his million ideas and tell him no, focus on what you've got.
So it's one of those things where in that case, you need to sort of reevaluate, maybe it's the campaign, maybe it's something going wrong. We just recently talked in the Discord about one of the problems I was having with our Wednesday game, which was that this was a game made almost like 3 years ago, but we've only been playing it for about a year and a half because I've had that many different groups of players come through this game. The old, is the broom still the same broom if you remove the handle and then remove the bristles?
Yeah.
Like, it is a completely different broom at this point. Nobody who started day one is still playing the game. And a lot of the storylines I've continued have not really accounted for that. So it's like I'm telling the story of people who aren't there. And it's been very helpful advice that I've gotten from the group of go back, cut out the things that don't make sense, cut out the things that don't apply to us, rework the lore if you have to. It doesn't matter. We're okay with it. So talk to your players if you're a DM experiencing burnout, because they are your players. they are your greatest resource in terms of figuring out what can I do to make this enjoyable.
Mhm. Definitely. Support your DMs. They are actually also a player.
Yeah.
DMs are people too.
DMs are people too. Yeah.
DMs are people too.
This question is kind of sort of all on Jake as far as DM burnout, because currently I have a campaign I'm going to potentially start soon. Soon, TM. Icewind Dale. But as a player, like, I've had DMs experience burnout. You know, we've had long conversations, Jake and I, about like, well, what can I do to help? You're struggling. I can see you're struggling. You're my friend. What can I do to help? Recognizing that this game is not for the players and the players alone. If the DM is not enjoying themselves, then the game is not what it's meant to be. We are all equal partners in this game. And if you see that your DM is struggling, reach out. I mean, all they can say is, no, I don't need your help. But saying, hey, bud, I love this game. How do we fix it? Really, to me, seems like one of the best things to do. And the other thing is, I've noticed that it's really hard for a DM to enjoy DMing players who don't engage. Please engage, because watching a DM struggle because nobody is engaging, like being the one player engaging in a game and watching your DM literally just talk to you, you can tell when it starts to get bad. Engage so it doesn't get there. Be an active participant in the game.
Do weird shit. Steal a horse. Yeah.
Steal a horse.
Kill a bunch of merch.
Steal a horse. Set fire to a town. Do something fun.
Start a revolution just for shits and giggles.
Past revolutions. I'll start that way. That's not true. Not true. Don't cancel me. Cool beans. Okay, so sort of on the converse side of whatever side of that question, is there anything DMs can do to like mitigate player burnout? Is it just the same issue of communicate?
I definitely think that's the same step one. You know, keep an eye on your players. If somebody who used to engage a lot is not engaging, talk to them, figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just something as simple as, I was tired that night. All right, yeah, fine. Or maybe it's, well, I don't know, I'm just not feeling this character anymore. They're not doing, I don't like it anymore. And then consider your options. We just got Tasha's, which has all these different ways of sort of changing your character. I shouldn't say ways of changing. All these options for allowing you to change your character in certain ways. And if you work with your players and sort of reimagine the character within legit rules of the game now, it can do a lot to sort of revitalize. I experienced something like that in our Strahd game, where I made a Circle of Spores druid in Barovia, where 90% of everything is resistant to necrotic damage.
It's a good character concept.
It's a great character concept. Bad place to play it if you wanted to actually be useful. So,
it also had that issue of creating zombies and the party of people who weren't going to tolerate zombie creation. I
could have learned to love the zombies.
No.
Maybe. I could have learned to love the zombies.
No. I play a literal avenging angel. That was not going to happen.
There was also that whole thing of she kind of lied to the group, so they didn't trust her to begin with around the time that she got the chance to summon zombies. So maybe
got over it. They got over it.
A little bit. But no, I agree. Communication is probably the biggest thing. Like, if you see a player that seems to be struggling, reach out. Like, that's why I advocate, like, if you can, be good friends with your group. Because I know that if I am struggling, I can shoot Serenity a message and be like, I have a problem. Or I can, yell at Jake, help. And they will help me because help. I am stuck. There's a lot of trust that needs to be there Because if you can't trust each other to work together, then burnout's going to be even more likely to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I can't trust a DM to handle my character's backstory, or my DM can't trust me to go with the plot at least a little bit, then just a little bit.
Little plot.
Follow the plot line. You can get into whatever shenanigans you want, but just like keep in mind that the plot exists, please. Then that's how burnout tends to happen. Like if we're on two different paths, then we're going to get exhausted.
Cool beans. So do you guys have any secrets, tips, weird tricks that doctors don't want you to know about for kind of preventing or curing burnout? I did research this. I researched all these episodes, BTW. So if they seem completely cobbled together, that's my own fault. And forget that I did research. I've heard that like changing things up can be a simple like cure or a way to cut through burnout, like making games shorter or making them longer or switching to a bi-weekly schedule or playing other games like on game night sometimes. The general consensus seemed to be like if you're stuck in a rut, the best way to cure that is to do something different. Do you think that's accurate?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, 100%. 9 times out of 10, burnout to me seems to be just, I'm just tired. I'm not feeling up to it this week. And in that case, yeah, just doing something different might be enough to just kind of counteract the burnout, or even, help you get reinvested in the character. We've done things where we've taken like a week off and I've been 10 times more excited to come back and play just because I didn't get to play last week. Not that I've ever really approached this game with any sort of like I don't know if I'm feeling right to play this.
Do I really want to play D&D?
Yeah.
And to be honest, sometimes I'm like, what if I play video games instead? What if I say I had a headache? But then I always have fun once I start, so.
Yeah. So yeah, just sometimes just taking a break.
Yeah.
All you need to do.
Sometimes a week off and y'all just hang out and play a dumb game where you yell at each other about being suspicious. And then the next week you're like, okay, well, let's roll some freaking dice.
And also yell at each other for being suspicious, but with dice this time.
But with dice, and you can check. Maybe you'll roll a decent deception check. Maybe. But like, I think honestly, changing it up is often the best way to get things going again. Revamp your character. Spend a week thinking about what is bothering me so much, or spend a week not thinking about D&D for a week.
Do something else.
Take a breather.
Cool. Awesome. Do you guys have any closing notes? Because we're going to finish up.
One other thing I like to do if I'm experiencing burnout from like character issues, you set up like a meeting with your DM and just role play out your character a little bit. I've gotten the chance to do that with Serenity a couple of times, with Oriana and with other characters, and it's a godsend of like how much it helps me figure out a character. It's just like a 10-minute like let's just talk to each other in character, and it's amazing how much it does.
Yeah,
interesting.
I mean, the best thing I can tell people is if you're feeling like, if it ever becomes like an obligation, and I don't mean that in the, well, I said I would show up, but in the, this is now a chore, then you have to take a breather and realize this is for fun. This is a game. We do this every week for an audience on Friday nights, but it's still a game. And if you think about it as this is meant to be fun, this is not meant to feel like you're required to grab that D20. then it really helps you to keep going and keep relaxing and enjoy the game rather than feel like you're at work.
You're probably not getting paid for it, unless you are, in which case, congratulations.
Congrats. I'm maybe a little jealous.
We're very jealous if you're getting paid to play D&D.
I would love that. Love that. Nothing
Right?
more.
Oh my God. Maybe someday we'll have a Patreon. Imagine. Patreon. Okay, cool. That's all our time for today. Speaking of money, if you want to check out our store, we've got t-shirts and tank tops, and I think that's it.
And mugs. We have mugs.
And we have mugs too. Get really excited about those mugs. It is now hot chocolate season officially, so get yourself a mug. Check out our Twitter. Check out our other videos on our Twitch. Check out our YouTube. Come to our Discord. You can finally understand all the inside jokes we pepper into these shows. I'm sure you're very confused about those, but come, we'll explain them to you. No game on Friday for the holiday, then no What's the Damage next week because there's no game, so I won't have anything to talk about. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you to Sunburnley Meows for doing our music and our title screen. We love them. We love you. Happy holidays. I hope you have a great Thanksgiving. I hope you stay inside your COVID bubble. Please, God, don't gather in groups of more than 6 people. Okay.
Please stay safe. Please stay safe and socially distant. We'd like to leave our houses at some point in relative safety.
Someday, probably next year. Okay.
Someday I want to go in a game store again for real and buy dice instead of buying them on Amazon. Please and thanks.
Imagine, do you remember game stores, you guys? Do you remember game stores? The smell of them. Okay, good night.
Anyway, we love you guys.
We're leaving now.